Hello and welcome to the On the Whistle podcast. My name is Alistair Howarth, your host for our AFCON preview series, and today we're heading back down to Southern Africa to talk about the Palancas Negras. Angola are back at the AFCON after years away from the tournament, and joining us to talk about their chances at this tournament is José Cunha, radio journalist, who comes onto the podcast to tell us about why some of the big names like Helder Costa, Ivan Cavaleiro, were not selected for the national team, and why instead they're looking at some younger and more, out there picks for the team. He also tells us a bit more about what's going on in Angolan club football. Obviously, there's some of the teams, including the biggest side of all, Petro de Luanda, were banned for a while, received a ban from the Angolan Federation, but are back playing club football, and he talks about how that has impacted this squad. Jose, thank you so much for joining the On the Whistle podcast. It's, it must be exciting. It's exciting to have, so many Southern African nations back in the AFCON. 2021 was the time for the North and West Africans, but now we finally got Namibia, South Africa, Mozambique, Angola, all back in the competition. How are you feeling having the national side back in the AFCON for the first time since 2019?
Yes, Angola failed the 2021 AFCON in Senegal. And since then, the Angolan national team has been struggling to find a team that can be trusted. It means a team that is used to play with each other, because from match to match, including the friendlies, the national coach Pedro Gonçalves has really been struggling to find his main 11 team. He has tried a lot of names playing in China, so far as China, Middle East, and the lower divisions in Europe. And so he has not been able to find a real team. But it seems that after the two matches, two qualifiers for the World Cup, 2026 World Cup, he finally settled in a team that we can expect to include some of the names that he announced on last Sunday as the 23 squad for the Ivory Coast. He said, "I'm using only 23 players. I don't want to use 27. Of course, 4 players will be in standby in case some of the 23 man squad fails, for example, due to injury or something like that." But he has finally settled in this team. And then, if you wish, in the moment, we can talk about who we expect to be included in his main starting 11 for the Ivory Coast.
Yeah, and I imagine when you're the head coach of a country like Angola, it must be very challenging to kind of settle on an 11, because obviously you've got so many different kind of angles. You've probably got players who are Portuguese born, but might you want to convince to come play for Angola. You've got a lot of players playing in, what would traditionally be a fairly strong kind of local league with really good club sides, like particularly I'm thinking of Petro de Luanda, who had a couple really good seasons, in the CAF Champions League. Obviously, they knocked out Mamelodi Sundowns a couple of years ago, went to the semifinals. But one of the challenges for Pedro Gonçalves, particularly in this AFCON building up to it, has been the issue around Petro and a few of the other kind of local teams, Sagrada and Primero Agosto, mainly because they haven't actually been playing league football, have they? What is going on in Angolan club football at the moment that's impacting the national team?
At the moment, the National League, the Girabola, is the popular name for this National Angolan League, is in its ninth match day. It should be, for your reference, it should be around 14 or 15 match day, or the first round should have been finished by now. And the reason why is simple, because the Petro, who is now the current dominant club in Angola, the main sporting, not only football, but sporting club in Angola, has been accused by the Angolan Federation of corruption, such as the two teams. One of them is playing also the CAF Confederation Cup, Académica Lobito, and Cabos Corp, who is the current leader of the Angolan National League. These clubs have appealed, and their appeals have been accepted. But in the meantime, this has caused the delay in starting the National League. So most of the players, some of them would have a chance to be included in this 23-man squad for the Ivory Coast, such as Gilberto from Petro and Jaredi, with a young forward who is been playing very well recently in the CAF Champions League, where Pedro is going on very well against the Tunisian opposition, as you know. They have not been selected because they have no match fitness at this moment. So, because in principle, some of the players who play for the National League, people say, for example, instead of Milson is one of the 23-man squad Pedro Gonçalves has selected. He plays for the Maccabi Tel Aviv, Israel. Not been playing because, as you know, the Israel situation prevents him from playing regularly. And people say, why didn't he call Gilberto or Jaredi from Pedro? But the problem is match fitness. So Pedro Gonçalves explained last Sunday in the press conference that this is the reason why he didn't select these two players. But only 4 players from playing in the local league are included in the squad list. And Angolan fans say, we don't know some of them. We don't know how they are playing, like Jeremy Bella, for example, who plays for Clermont in France, and other players like Zini, who is playing for AEK Essence. So, but the Pedro Gonçalves said that those 23 were the players I found would suit my playing strategy better. So that's the reason why he has selected. I can say that the defense and for the attacking section of the team, I can tell you exactly who will play in the starting 11 with almost 100% certainty. But the main problem is for the midfield. There is no talent, and this is the main concern for Angola. Who is going to bring the ball to the forwards to create the football, goal chances and opportunities? That is one of the biggest problems for the national team.
Yeah, and I guess it's also been interesting. You're talking about how Pedro Gonçalves has been, putting together a team that he thinks is the best team, even if it's not necessarily, the biggest names and the people we think of, because we've seen, some of the names that aren't in that list. We think of particularly, here in the UK and Europe, the more familiar names, Helder Costa, even Cavaleiro, who played at Wolves, and Helder Costa recently at Leeds. Players who we would look at and expect, oh, they play in the big leagues, they're expected to be a part of this Angola team. Do you think it's been this is a sign of the good work that Pedro Gonçalves has done? Because like you said, it took him a long time to settle on this team, but now he has settled on a team, and we're seeing more consistent performances from the Palancas Negras, particularly defensively, like you're saying, that stability. I think coming into the AFCON, they've had 3 clean sheets in a row. We're looking at a far more stable team. Do you think that's a good thing he hasn't actually picked some of these kind of bigger players who don't have as much experience with the national team?
Yeah, the main reason he selected some of these players is experience. Uh, for example, in defense, you have one of the players, Kialonda Gaspar, who is really been outstanding for the national team, for the Palancas Negras recently. He will be surely one of in the starting 11. So in the attack, of course, you have the Zito Luvumbo, who is playing for Cagliari and is playing quite well. Mbalazola also plays in Italy. He should have a chance. And then you have Gelson Dalla, is a household name in Angola, very popular. He used to play here for Primeiro de Agosto before going. Now he's playing to other clubs in other countries. Now he's playing for Accra in Qatar. Also, he may have a chance. But as I told you, there is no doubt for the defense section and for the forward section. Attacking section is no problem. But for the midfield, there is a big problem. The biggest concern for every Angolan fan is how is Pedro Gonçalves going to select a midfield that has failed to provide it recently the ball to the forward section of the team. That is the biggest concern. But overall, the expectations are that Angola is not going to win the AFCON, frankly speaking. Everybody says like that. But what would be considered a good campaign in Ivory Coast in January? Well, at least qualify, even if they qualify as one of the best third place teams to the next round. This would be a good AFCON for the Angolan national team, the Palancas Negras.
Yeah, I want to talk about the group here, and because it's quite an interesting group. Obviously, you have Algeria, who are one of the strongest, most consistent teams in Africa. But of course, they had that shocking performance at the last AFCON in 2021 when they got knocked out by Equatorial Guinea and Cote d'Ivoire, and obviously were held by Sierra Leone as well. And then you've got Burkina Faso, who always are perennial kind of dark horses. They have a lot of talent, really strong team in terms of their forward players, really powerful counter-attacking team. And then Mauritania, who I think probably are going to be in a similar build to yourselves. Very organized, very defensively solid, especially now under Amir Abdiou. They look like a proper team. What are you expecting coming into this group, particularly that first game against Algeria? Is there kind of a lot of expectation in Angola that you can get a result against Algeria, especially after the last AFCON?
Well, Algeria is the clear favorite for this group. Of course, they have players, experienced players, quality players playing in some of the, I would not say the biggest teams in Europe, but at least the second tier established clubs, like players like Ben Sebaini and Ben Taleb and Feguli, of course, Riyad Mahrez, and the veteran Isman Slimani. It's a very good squad. They didn't have a good campaign last time round, but they are clear favorites because of the quality and experience of the players to beat Angola. That's no Angolan fan realistically expects Angola to beat Algeria. A draw would be a very good result. And regarding Burkina Faso, we can say the same thing as for Algeria. Steve Yago, Ouedraogo, and Tapsoba, and the veteran Bertrand Traoré. So the French coach Hubert Velou has an experienced team that has proven its quality. So also with Burkina Faso, if Angola loses this game, it would be considered as a natural. But um, the main candidate, of course, is Algeria. Angola might try to turn in a surprise against Burkina Faso, but against Mauritania, a team that Angola has played several times, and usually Angola wins. Angola is expected to win, so that they might have a chance to be third in this group, and then try to be one of the four best third position teams and go to the next round. This is the real expectation. In conclusion, nobody expects Angola to beat Algeria. A draw with Burkina Faso would be a very good result, and everybody expects Angola to beat Mauritania.
Mm. Okay, I like that. You have clear expectations for each and every single match. Yeah, I want to talk about a bit about the team, because you mentioned that we have this very settled back line, and then again, kind of going forward, you've also got quite a settled, established front line, and I want to talk. I want you to tell me a bit more about in particular Zito Luvumbo, who's obviously Angola have a very strong tradition of producing very exciting attacking forwards, and really talented goal scorers. I think of the likes of particularly Flavio Amado comes to mind, and Aqua and Manucho, and even Gelson Dalla, who's done had a really good career for Angola. What kind of player is Zito? What kind of is this tournament a really good opportunity for him to kind of explode as this exciting player for Angola?
Yes, he's been playing recently quite well for Cagliari, his club in Italy, and scoring goals. He's not a natural goal scorer. He's more of a winger who can go past defenders. He's a very good dribbling capacity. And also, he has been grown recently not only to score goals, but to provide goals for his fellow attacking players. So he is perhaps one of the he will be he's expected to be one of the most exciting players to watch for this Angolan national team. We don't know about Gelson. Gelson is also this kind of player, although he's more of a number nine who comes from behind in the center of the opposing team's defense to score. The problem for the attack, Angolan attack, is who will be the goal scorer. I mean, the number nine. It is expected to be Mabululu. He currently plays for Al Ittihad Alexandria in Egypt, and he's been scoring. He's been in a very good form. So he's expected to be in the center of the attack with Zito Luvumbo on the right or on the left. And then the question will be who will be on the left side. Perhaps Mbalanzola, who can also score goals, or Gelson Dalla if he is in good form. Also Milson, who plays for Maccabi Tel Aviv. Last time he played for Angola, he made a very good match. So these are the main candidates for the starting 11 for the attack.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you're talking about Zito as this player who can play on the left and the right. You know, obviously he came through that under 17 AFCON, and I think it was back in 2019 when Angola did very well. But obviously, I think it was Cameroon who came out on top in the end, winning that tournament. Is there a sense with this team that, you know, you're talking about this is a team with experience, you know, but you have these youngsters kind of coming through, one or two, you know, Zito, I think Zini as well, you know, quite talented players. Is there a sense that Angolan football is heading back in the direction that it, you know, perhaps once was? Maybe, you know, thinking back to the generation in the mid 2000s, you know, the players that had players like Flavio that went to the World Cup, you know, where is this Angola team in its kind of progression, I guess, is kind of what I want to know.
Unfortunately, Alice, the truth must be said that Angola is now has now failed for at least 1 decade to prepare the junior teams so that new exciting players come constantly to strengthen the main senior team. The players go to Europe. This is common for Africa in general. The players go to Europe early, very early, whereas they used to go when they were 20 or 21. Now they go at 14, 15. They settle down, for example, in Portugal and other countries. They have the nationality of their hosting countries, and then they kind of lose their connection with Angola. Of course, they come when they are called for the national team, but you feel that when Angola team was composed mostly of players playing in the national league, like Flavio Amado, Aqua, around 2006 and 2008 and 10, when Angola reached the quarterfinals of the AFCON, there was more of a sense of unity and playing for the national colors, which you don't find with players like Jeremy Bella, who okay, he was born he was not born in Angola. Of course, his fathers were Angolan, and there are other players that Ivan Cavaleiro, for example, he also the same case. Others they were born in Angola, but they went to Europe very soon. So we feel that there is some soul that is missing in this place. You understand? So in conclusion, around 2006 to until 2010 and maybe the middle of this decade, the team was composed more of players playing locally, and there was more unity, more strength, more soul, more determination, which sometimes the national team is missing with the current crop. So the critics in Angola, they say that we must go to the basics, to the grassroots, and work again in the juvenile and junior team, under 17, and then prepare a new crop of players for the future, which is not happening at this moment.
Yeah, I find that so interesting, and I love that, you know, that when we talk about the AFCON, there's so many, I guess, you know, different ways to skin a cat, you know, is the expression in English. Like, there's so many different ways to find success, and there's all, you know, subsequently there's also so many different ways to find failure, because, you know, even talking with so many people from different countries, you see other countries where the team is almost entirely composed of players who were born abroad. So I think a good example is Equatorial Guinea, right, where almost the entire national team was born in Spain. They all grew up playing Spanish football. They all, you know, most of them play in you know, the second or third tier in Spain. But, you know, speaking with, you know, some former players and people around the team, they say that when they come to play for Equatorial Guinea, they have that passion. They want to play for Equatorial Guinea. They have, you know, that sense of, you know, patriotism. Whereas we've seen other countries, I think Morocco is a good example, where they've been able to blend it, you know, both Moroccan-based and born players, whilst bringing in some, you know, the French-born players, the Belgian-born players, the Dutch-born players. But it's interesting, you're saying in Angola, it's kind of the opposite, where it's an issue of players who, even because even if you go through this Angola team, almost all of them were born in Angola. A couple weren't, but like you said, many of them have moved abroad very young and then have lost that sense of unity and spirit. Is that something you think is specific to Angola? Is that why do you think that has been a challenge to create that sense of identity and that togetherness when maybe some other countries have found ways to do it, even if their players aren't all playing kind of domestically?
Well, first of all, because the Angolan national team, unfortunately, is currently in the third tier of African football. That's the reality. The quality and the ranking of the team, I mean the real ranking, not the FIFA ranking in Africa, has decreased very much. So um, the presence in AFCONs is irregular. Angola is failing to produce a new generation of especially attacker forwards like Flavio Amado and Manucho in Aqua in the past. So these players, they sometimes many of them lost contact with the country. Of course, they come from time to time to see their families and all, but it was different, very different, as I told you, around 15 years ago when the team was mostly made of local players. So, of course, they play for the national team with pride, uh, and they try to do their best. But that is some problem Pedro Gonçalves must solve. In the recent games, we saw more unity, more cohesive play from the team. Uh, we have this problem in midfield, which is unsurmountable, unfortunately. You cannot make excellent midfielders from one day to the other. It's a process that takes time. But in defense and the attack, that is guaranteed that Angola may try to spring a surprise, especially against Burkina Faso. We are confident about that. In the midfield, I should mention Keliano, who plays for Estrela Amadora in Portugal. He's a fellow team member for the Kialonda Gaspar, excellent central defender. Uh, and Show is a player that was very popular in Angola for Primeira de Agosto before going to Portugal and now plays for Maccabi Haifa. Is also an exciting player. If he's well informed, he could make a midfield that can bring the ball to the attacking section, to the forwards. Uh, so this is the main question for Angolan team. How is this midfield going to defend and at the same time prepare the ball for the attacking players and assist them so that they can create opportunities and score. This is the main problem. If Pedro Gonçalves can find the right balance, we are confident that Angola might go on to the knockout stage.
And just on Pedro, obviously he's been in post for quite a few years, which I think particularly in an African context, international football context, is quite rare. For someone to be in the same post for so long, particularly as he didn't qualify for you for the 2021 AFCON. Is the expectation that he'll kind of continue with this team developing it even post AFCON, or is there even a sense that if he doesn't perform well that might be it for him and he might be kind of shown the door?
Well, Pedro Gonçalves is generally a very serious coach. Uh, he's a very calm person, and he replies to the journalists who sometimes make him some very hard to reply questions, very difficult questions. He's a gentleman. Um, Basically, we might say that if he fails to completely in the group stage of this AFCON in Ivory Coast, he will be replaced. That's our belief. But if he can qualify the team at least for the knockout stage, I think he will have at least one more year, especially because Angola is involved, as you know, in the qualification for the next World Cup. So Angola is in a group with Cameroon, Cape Verde, Libya, Eswatini, and Mauritius. Except Cameroon, who is a different level, Angola can very well try at least the second spot in this group and have a chance to to try to go to the United States, and why not try to beat Cameroon. But so I think if he goes to the knockout stage in Ivory Coast, he will be given an opportunity to go on and bring this team, lead this team to the through the qualifying stage for the next World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good point to bring in is the World Cup. Obviously, you started with those 2-0 draws. I think is against Cape Verde and against Mauritius, and obviously Cape Verde and 0-0 against Cape Verde, particularly away, is a very good result. But the Mauritius one, not so much. But I think you're totally right. Yet he should be a part of it for the World Cup qualifiers, because Cameroon, I think, you say why not? I think they're one of the weaker pot one teams. I actually think that there is a chance for Angola to get there. But Jose, I'm looking forward to seeing Angola at this AFCON. I mean, maybe based off of recent performances, the football might not be as exciting as perhaps Angolan football once was, but I think there's a chance that you can still get out of this group, and particularly with Algeria showing that they have a soft underbelly. Jose, before we finish, we always end these conversations with a quick fire round of questions, general questions, and I'm going to put you on the spot with a couple of these. So I'm going to ask you, coming into the tournament, who is Angola's most important player?
At this moment, it's very difficult to say. I might say that Zito Luvumbo at this moment is perhaps the most important player, the most informed player, playing well, scoring goals. If he can supply the ball to Mabulolo, who is expected to be the center forward, number 9, and Zini, who is also can also play at this position. And if Gelson Dalla is well, Angola might score the goals, and defense is reliable. So I think at this moment, the main, most important player for Angola at this moment, Zito Luvumbo, and is this kind of player.
And my next question, you'll probably already have the answer there, but who is Angola's most exciting young player to watch?
Of course, Zito Luvumbo as well. Next, after him, maybe Gelson Dalla is also a very exciting player. Zini is more of a finisher, is more of a scorer. So Mbalanzola, if he's in form, also is one to watch. So there is no scarcity of talent in the attack, as I told you. Defense is reliable. Question mark for the midfield. But if they can play reasonably in AFCON, Angola might make a good AFCON. So we are still confident that they can do it.
And you're saying you're confident. I'm going to ask you now for a prediction. How far do you think Angola will make it at this AFCON?
My realistic expectation is perhaps lose against Algeria. Try at least to draw with the Burkina Faso, and beat Mauritania. This would be enough to qualify at least as one of the best third spot teams in this group stage.
So round of 16, getting to the next round, it would be your prediction.
Yes.
And then if Angola are going to get to the round of 16, who is the team that's going to win the AFCON in your opinion?
It's difficult. At this moment, I think Senegal and Morocco are the main candidates for the title. Let's not forget Egypt, who can always spring a surprise. Algeria might do it. Very good team, this Algerian team. They failed last time around, but Jamel Belmadi, the coach, has maybe brought some more stability recently. So also one of the candidates. So for me, the Morocco and Senegal are the main candidates to lift the trophy at the end of this AFCON 2024.
Yeah, Jose, I need you to give me one of those names. Is it going to be Morocco or Senegal? I need you to commit to one.
I should say it will be Morocco this time.
Morocco. Okay, but Senegal last time, it's Morocco's time. And who is going to be the top scorer at the tournament?
Well, it will be difficult. Maybe En-Nesyri from Morocco. He's not been playing very well for his team Seville, but he's a very natural goal scorer. He has a very strong team behind him who can supply the ball to him. So I think he will be one of the candidates for the top scorer.
And if En-Nesyri will be the top scorer, who's going to become the player of the tournament? Who's going to be the best player at this AFCON?
I usually don't like to make this kind of
I know.
prediction
Oh, I
because you
know.
never know.
I know, Jose. That's why I ask.
But I think maybe if Senegal goes on and lifts the trophy, maybe Sadio Mane is in need of rehabilitation after he went to the Bayern Munich. So I think he could be the player of the tournament.
Sadio Mane. Okay, Sadio Mane to be player of the tournament. Jose, thank you so much. I know those are the questions you don't want to answer. No one does. That's why I have to ask them. But thank you so much for speaking to us. It's been a pleasure hearing your expertise on Angola, and looking forward to seeing the Palancas Negras at the AFCON.